Hi everyone, my name is Konnor. I'm one of the fourth year medical students at UC Irvine in Southern California. We're going to be going through a micro board style question today. Micro, incredibly high yield for step one. And guess what? Sketchy's got your back, not only to memorize all the annoying stuff you have to memorize for micro in a fun fashion, we have a question bank too. So we're going to do some questions and take a look at a sketch after. So when I do my board style questions, every single time that I do a board style question, highlight that last sentence first. Just my go-to method. I think it primes me and helps me figure out what the question is asking pretty early on. So which of the following is the most likely causative organism? Well, spoiler, we're doing a micro question. So I know I'm looking for what caused these symptoms. I choose not to read the answer choices just because I feel like it biases me and increases my cognitive load. I just don't think that's important. I have a 28-year-old woman, clinic, complaining of vaginal itching and a thick white cottage cheese-like discharge. I could answer this question off that. You might recognize this from buzzwords, which is all of really what micro is buzzwords. But even though I'm 99% sure I know what the answer is, let's make sure and read the rest of the stem and look at the rest of the answer choices. So she wended a 10-day course of broad-spectrum antibiotics for a UTI. The exam shows erythema and edema of the vulva and the vagina with adherent white discharge. So what is the most likely organism? Likely think it's this one, but let's explain why it's some others first and come back to them. So Trichomonas, this likely, this causes your like green frothy discharge. Really doesn't have much to do with like the broad spectrum antibiotic portion of this, and just the discharge looks different. It's not white, so less likely. Gardnerella, not actually an STI. So this is bacterial vaginosis. This is like a gray, fishy odor. The buzzword for this one is clue cells. So I don't see anything on here about that. So not likely. And then chlamydia and gonorrhea. This definitely, they can be asymptomatic, but also can cause mucopurulent discharge. Is not necessarily described as cottage cheese-like though, nor adherent. This is, again, very purulent. It's coming out, but not really white necessarily and not cottage cheese-like. So based on what I have in the question stem, either I can't differentiate between chlamydia and Neisseria with everything that they gave me, and I can't have that. If both of these are, I need something more to differentiate between the two. If it really was just if they just said mucopurulent discharge instead of cottage cheese, they have to give me more. And since they don't, I know it can't be this. So again, green, frothy. This one is more gray, clue cells, whatnot. And this is mucopurulent discharge, not necessarily white, but also hard to differentiate between the two. So Canada. You see cottage cheese-like discharge, pick Canada and move on. I went through all the steps of why I ruled it and ruled out other things, but in terms of why this is Canada as well, she was on antibiotics that wiped out your normal flora in the vaginal canal, and then we now have the emphasis of Canada because we wiped out some of that natural flora. So with Canada, and the awesome part of the Sketchy Question Bank is that we have everything in here as well of why questions are right or wrong. Again, D&E for chlamydia and gonorrhea, they are often mucopurulent or maybe asymptomatic. So feel better about that. But look, I have the sketch right next to me where I click the link and literally you're watching it pop up for me right now. This is the sketch, and the Canada sketch and Canada in general is easily one of the highest yield fungal infections and just really high yield micro anything that you need to know about. So for the really high yield stuff, I encourage you and implore you to review the sketch in the manner of your choosing. I like going symbol viewer because Canada is super high yield. So it's a Canada for Canada, it's dimorphic. This is where, like we see here, it's different. It's yeast in the cold, and it's hyphae in the warm. Normally it's the other way around, in that it's yeast in the heat and mold in the cold. This is the other way around. Very important to know. That's another thing talking about this as well. It does have catalase, which is great. Our little kitty is there. Canada likes to cause diaper rash, definitely in immunocompromised individuals with the cane that we've seen in plenty of other sketches. Very important to know. Get oral thrush. Again, more thrush, can be KOH mounted. Here is your esophagitis, specifically in HIV and AIDS, this gray-white pseudomembrane. This is where we talk about it in AIDS and HIV, about when Canada really starts to concern us of what CD4 count, very important as well. And now over on this left side is your vulvovaginal candidiasis. And so that's your pruritus and the thick white vaginal discharge. That's cottage cheese. Why can we precipitate this out? Our little sketch right here shows us we have candy, medication bottles, and birth control pills, meaning for diabetes, antibiotics, and hormonal changes. That all precipitates us out into having a vulvovaginal candidiasis. Also important to know that the pH stays normal, around 4 or so. And then here's the treatment. We can use fluconazole, we use amphotericin B, and we have some nystatin, and we can use the echinocandins. You can treat Candida with a lot of things, dealer's choice of your infectious disease doctor, but there's a lot. This question was about the STI portion of this, or not necessarily STI, but about Candida. There's a lot to be learned about Candida. So make sure you review this sketch over and over and over again. Guarantee you it'll help you answer more than one question on test day. But hopefully you enjoyed learning more about Canada.